On this special season preview edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, will the Wild, the Avs, the Stars, and the Jets all find the postseason in 2025-2026? Or will somebody be left out in the cold?
This is the Locked On Podcast Network's 2025 NHL season preview. Your team every day.
And good evening and welcome into a special season preview edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. We are your daily podcast on the NHL, and we are your team each and every day. We thank you for making these shows your first listen each and every day. Make sure to subscribe on all of your favorite audio platforms and YouTube so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. On this preview edition, we're going to take a look at the four teams most likely to contend in the Central Division in 2025-2026. We're talking big offseason additions, breakout players, and what's at stake. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked On Wild, joined by Chris Micieli of Locked On Avalanche, Harrison Lee of Locked On Winnipeg Jets, and Joey Erickson of Locked On Stars, the four teams most likely to make noise in 2025-2026. As long as KAPRIZOV signs on the dotted line. Guys, we'll get into that as the show unfolds, I'm sure. But let's just start with last year's division champions, the Winnipeg Jets. And Harrison, we're going into the season. We're optimistic about things going like they did this past year. Or are you? What are some signs for optimism for the Jets in 2025-2026?
Well, I suppose when you've ascended the mountain of quality, how can you possibly tumble down? Which is basically what every President's Trophy team tells themselves, and then they tumble down. That's not going to be the Jets. I think Winnipeg will still be a very good team. I think that there's a lot of excitement. If you can believe it, a preseason game, and we're going to pretend Montreal doesn't exist because the Habs fans are crazy and their prospect showdown was through the roof. But the Jets still drew 14,500 fans last night for a preseason game. So the hype around the team is legit. Tomorrow they'll have a chance. Well, as of this recording, it'll be the Tuesday debut for Jonathan Toews in preseason. But that's kind of where I start to have some questions. The Jets definitely got older. And I don't know that the fan base necessarily sees it that way. Yep, they've brought in veteran experience in Nyquist, which if it was Nyquist of like 5 years ago, I'd be jazzed. I think he was on my trade deadline list for like half a decade. But, that version of him, Toews 2 years off the ice, Pearson, who can still shoot, but maybe doesn't have the creative flair he used to. To me, it just feels like this year, if I can even call it this, is a bit of a gap year. The Jets have this 3-year competitive window, but based on what they're doing so far, I don't know that they're nearly as locked in for the season. We'll see what they do with the trade deadline, but I think the regular season will be fine. I think they'll finish somewhere in the top 4 of the Central, probably 3rd or 4th. But once you start getting into the playoffs, that's probably where I think my optimism tails off.
Chris, the hopeful return of the captain, is that a big reason for optimism for the Avs, or are there a few other things that have you feeling like the Avs could make a run this year?
That's definitely one. You can't kind of deny that. So him having a return, you got a little bit of a glimpse of it in the playoffs. And he seems like he's as healthy as one can be at his age and coming back from that injury. So yeah, definitely, because I think, he's been around, right? But he's not been, he doesn't travel with the team all the time, or he didn't. And you're already seeing the importance of just having a captain around the team in the locker room. And when it's, a captain of Gabe Landeskog's stature, it does go a long way. So yes, that is absolutely a big factor. And I think for there's kind of two sides in the Avs world right now. And because they pretty much they had a couple signings in this offseason. They didn't go crazy. They pretty much held firm. And they're pretty much just saying, and you heard it a lot, like going into that first round matchup with the Stars, it was like, it's almost unfair that one of these teams has to be the loser. And they're feeling like, okay, well, if that's the talking point, why blow this whole thing up? We were 11 minutes away from winning that series. They like the team that they had. They added a couple pieces here and there. They bring Brock Nelson back. That was really their biggest signing, along with like Brent Burns. So they really kind of kept things status quo and feel like change things in those last 11 minutes and we move on.
Joey, Peter DeBoer talked his way out of Dallas, which ushers in a new era of Dallas Stars hockey with a lot of the same roster. What has you optimistic for the 2025-2026 Stars season?
The Stars still have their core pieces there. And general manager Jim Nill has made it clear. And I think this is sort of what the season's going to be defined for Dallas is which young players are going to step up. Can Maverick Bourque, can he insert into your top six and be a guy who you thought he was, when you drafted him? Is Sam Steele a guy that can elevate in the lineup? Because you lost some scoring on the left side with Dodonov and Marchment. Those are two guys that scored 20 goals. So you're going to have to find some guys that can elevate maybe in the lineup and step up and give you big minutes. But the core's still there, right? You have your Wyatt Johnsons, your Jason Robertsons, and I didn't get to Mikko Rantanen yet. You're going to get a full 82 games out of Mikko Rantanen. He's finally settled. He's going to get a full training camp. So the Stars, I think, are in a really good spot. It should be really good. Again, now it's just about can Glenn Gulutzan get them over the top. And it's not fair to judge him on that first go around in Dallas Stars were in bankruptcy. Louis Erickson, one of my favorite Dallas Stars players ever, but like he was their leading scorer. That roster wasn't very good. They got rid of Brad Richards and all that. So he's being given a really good roster. And he's stated that it's all about, it's an opportunity for him. And what I think a lot of Stars fans are looking forward to, he's made a pretty obvious statement that he wants to be more physical. So we'll see if they can marry those two together.
Okay.
I can't wait to re-record everything that I say for this show, depending on how the KIRILL Kaprizov situation plays out.
Yeah, but I mean, for this year, he's all set for this year.
Yeah.
So
and honestly,
are you meaning like,
honestly,
trading?
There's just like this prevailing panic in Minnesota. National media, local media, fans alike are all concerned that this situation has just completely spiraled out of control. You got to trade him. You got to get something back in return, because why would he wait to sign? Why would he not sign on the dotted line already? Because you'd be crazy to not take 8 years, right? Let's fact check this a little bit. Let's just throw some logic in here. So we know the salary cap's going up substantially. So you, as one of the premier players in the league, are going to lock into an 8-year deal right while that's going on? No, you're not going to. Connor McDavid is also in the exact same situation. This is a staring contest. This is a standoff between the two. I'm not particularly worried that KIRILL is going to leave, because I think that would have already been intimated by now if that's what he wanted to do. So I have optimism that we're going to see more than 41 games from KIRILL Kaprizov this year. I have optimism that we're going to see more than 46 games from Joel Eriksson Ek. I have optimism that some of the young players on this roster will take steps, will get opportunities to fill meaningful roles on the roster. And I am of the belief that we saw enough from this team early on to know that there is a working formula there. It's just a matter of being able to get that formula on the ice more often than it is not. So the Minnesota Wild had the best record in the NHL. They had the most points in the NHL in early December. That's not a fluke. I'm optimistic about that, and I'm optimistic about the 4-year deal that KIRILL will sign for $17.5 million. I'm just trying to come up with a number.
As long as your GM's not Jerry Jones or Nico Harrison, you're going to be fine. All right, they'll get the deal done. They don't have to trade away your young superstar.
Well, we're going to sneak in a break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the numbers for all of our teams as far as points go. And we'll talk about big offseason additions. That's all coming up as we continue this special season preview edition of Locked On NHL right after this. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it be 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. And welcome back to today's special season preview edition of Locked On NHL. Once again, we are your team each and every day, and we are your first listen each and every day as well. Gentlemen, let's talk about the season point totals courtesy of FanDuel. I've got them on the screen for those watching on YouTube, and I will just call out the number and give it to the corresponding host to tell me if you think your team goes over or under those numbers. Harrison, we'll start with you again. 98.5 points for the Winnipeg Jets. Do you think the Jets go over or under?
Really annoying one because it's right where I would probably feel pretty comfortable about it. 98.5 is, I mean, I'm going to say over probably by 1 or 2 points. I think that they will be closer to 100 than they are away from it. So I'll go the over.
Okay. Joey, 106.5. Are you going over or under for the Stars?
This feels a touch high for me, so I would probably go under, but I would put them in the mix at that 106 number. I feel like they're going to regress just a touch, but I put them around the 100-point mark. Working in a new coach, I feel like there's going to be some growing pains, and they play a pretty tough schedule right off the hop. They got Winnipeg, they got Minnesota, they got Colorado, all the teams here. And they got a lot of playoff teams like in the first, 15 to 20 games. So I think there may be some growing pains early. So I don't see them getting to 106 like they did last year. So I would go under there.
Chris, 104.5 for the Avs. What are you thinking, over or under?
All right, so I want to preface this by saying we did an episode on this for the Central a few weeks ago, and these numbers have changed because when we did the episode, both the Stars and the Avalanche were at 105.5, and I had picked Dallas to go over that. I do think Dallas is going to have a fantastic season. I had them at I put them at 110. I think they're going to Dallas figures it out. If you ask me, they always just figure out a way to win games and be at the top of the standings. I think they're going to be one of the top teams in the league. I put the Avs at under when it was 105 because I had them at 105. So now that it's down to 104.5, I got to go over by half a point and keep what I had said during our episode. So I think they're going to be 1-2 in the division, but I think Dallas, I guess if a 5-6 point lead is a runaway, is as much of a runaway with the division as it can be. And half of me says that because I'm wrong on so many things when it comes to picking this stuff. So keep that in mind too.
As far as the Wild go, 96.5. I am going to go over here. again, there's no possible way that they can be injured as much as they were last year, right? Right. I guess we'll find out, but I do think that if the Wild manage to have like 60% of the injuries even that they had last year, I think they can find 100 points there. Let's talk offseason additions. And I'll start with me. I'll start with the Wild. Biggest offseason acquisition by each of our teams. There wasn't a ton that was done by the Minnesota Wild this offseason. They went chasing. They were in the DMs with Brock Nelson. They were in the DMs with Brock Besser. Didn't work out. There were a lot of players that just opted to stay where they were at this offseason, and the Wild just did not really – they didn't get much connection on any of those, so they opted not to try to go crazy with it. So they bring in Vladimir Tarasenko, who was on a terrible Detroit team last year, had some of his lowest numbers as an NHLer in a full season. So again, common theme here with the Minnesota Wild is he can't perform that poorly again this year, right? And so far he's one of the bright spots of training camp for the Minnesota Wild. He looks the part, he's been aggressive, and I'm telling you, if he can fill that second line wing spot that has been just a black hole since Kevin Fiala was traded, if he can fill that spot even with 20 goals, this offense is going to be the best that it's been since that 2021-2022 season. It's been that big of a void, and I'm leaning towards I think he can do it, because I think he kind of knows where he's at in his career. If he wants another contract or to keep playing, he's got to pick it up. So I think Tarasenko can be the guy to fill that void. If he doesn't, then it's going to be a one-line team again that's going to struggle offensively, and then they're going to be kind of right back where they were. So common theme. It can't be as bad as last year, right? We'll see. Chris, who was the biggest offseason acquisition or retention? Because I think the common theme for many of these teams is we don't have oodles of cash to spend. We're not the Ducks. We're not the Sharks. We're not trying to get to the cap floor. So there's not a ton of money to spend. So what was the biggest addition or retention for the Avs?
Can I say in a weird kind of way, Gabe Landeskog, because he hasn't played for 3 years?
I'll allow it.
Right. That's one. We kind of talked about him as to why. It was a very quiet offseason for the Avs, but the moves that they did make kind of a good impact, or should have a good impact. I mentioned Brent Burns. It's weird to say a 40-year-old third pairing defenseman is maybe one of their bigger acquisitions, but it's more than just the position he's playing. It's what he brings in the locker room. It's who he's going to be paired with in Sam Malinsky, who is, a younger defenseman who's going to be asked to take on a little bit more, and, putting them two together on the ice and, just giving his knowledge to a younger guy, I think is perfect. And then as far as a retention, Brock Nelson, I think, was huge, because the Avs have struggled for years to solidify the 2C position since Nazem Kadri left. It has been a revolving door. And I was a little bit surprised that they were able to keep him. I thought he was out the door. I thought he was going up north to you guys, Seth, to be totally honest. And word is Zach Parise, of all people, was in on keeping him in Colorado. I don't mean to twist the knife, but that's
that's so tough, Seth. That is
right.
So tough.
No, it was Devon Taves, former Islander, obviously, who played with him, and Zach Parise, who kind of convinced Brock Nelson to stay in Colorado. Pretty wild.
Good. I don't like paying him $7 million a year after he's done playing anyway. Wow. I did not know that. So that reaction was real and in real time. That's why we do these. Harrison, biggest offseason addition for the Winnipeg Jets this year.
Well, that's easy. It's a guy who hasn't played in 2 years and had long COVID. So, how do you even expect anything. Jonathan Taves coming back. I have called him our little mystery box. He's coming back to practice. I've heard he's rusty, which I'm like, yeah, go figure. The guy hasn't played in 2 years. It's just kind of what you expect. The Athletic, I think, framed that as a good thing. And I'm like, ordinarily I'd be fine with it, but they are kind of asking him to be the 2C at the start. So I'm kind of a little perplexed by that. I know Adam Lowry's hurt, but maybe you don't ask the guy who hasn't been on the ice in 2 years to immediately be in your top 6. It just seems a little risky. I know the hands and IQ are certainly there, but man, this is just, for a team that was a President's Trophy team, that's a really big gamble to take. So who else did they bring in, right? Well, surely they brought in young, fervent talent that can help move this team ahead and into a cup contender status, right?
We're asking that question a lot in this episode.
Yeah. So they brought in Gus Nyquist, who I alluded to earlier. I do have a bit of a soft spot many years ago, but I kind of look at him as sort of, if anyone watches football overseas, you have those 36-year-old strikers who basically don't run. They just sort of sit by the net and hope something comes to them. That's kind of what I think Gus is going to do. I think he's going to poach 20, 25 goals, and that's probably the most you can expect from him. But he is Swedish, and that's always a winner in my book. So, anytime I can yell "goose" really loudly, I think that's going to be a great chance. And I think he's had some time with the Wild, if I recall correctly. Is my memory serving me right?
Yeah.
It was a while ago.
Yeah. He had one very good stint, and then he had a stint that it's like when you are marked present during a class.
Oh, good. That's the participation award. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's the best way.
So he was there. So hopefully, he's going to be on the second line with Taves. With Cole Perfetti, that's going to be probably one of the slowest lines in the league, but there's hopefully enough skill to compensate. These acquisitions were all signed for 1 year. I don't think that there's a really big expectation that this team is going to be the best Jets team ever. I don't feel that from the front office. They had to have Mark Scheifele do an article saying he was happy with the offseason, which doesn't feel like the kind of thing you should have to have somebody say. But the Jets, they'll be good, right? They'll be good. I think this just feels, for me, and they won't frame it this way. They're not going to say it, and they probably hope it doesn't happen. But this does kind of feel like the sort of offseason where you're thinking about this upcoming year as a transition year. What will it be at the end? Lord only knows. But hopefully, our house of retirees with the 7th oldest roster pulls through and actually wins more than 6 playoff games. That'd be awesome.
Joey, biggest and most impactful offseason addition for the Dallas Stars, or retention?
I'll probably keep this pretty short. Not a lot of sexy here. So really, I'm choosing between a couple of fourth liners. But weirdly enough, I think in the Stars' eyes, like these are big moves. So they went out and added Radek Faksa again. Why? I don't know. They have a Radek Faksa at home. His name's Oscar Beck. They've told us for 2 years that this guy's Oscar, that he is Radek Faksa. Looked pretty decent last year, and then we went and added 2.0. So I guess we got a little Radek Faksa, Oscar Beck dynamic duo on the fourth line. So watch out, Central Division. But I throw Nathan Bastian in that conversation as well. Golitzin has made a point. This goes back to sort of that physicality speak. He wants to just increase the Stars' physicality by 1% during the regular season. And he doesn't want this team to change their identity, right? The Stars are good, and as Chris said, for the most part, they seem to figure it out. They don't need to run around and chase after hits. They're not looking to lead the league in hit totals, because most of the time that means you don't have the puck on your stick. But they want to be ready come playoff time for some of those hand-to-hand combats, as he says. And why I'm pretty bullish on Golitzin is he's made the statement he wants to play road hockey. That's kind of how he finds that's kind of his approach at all times. And that's on the power play too, on the penalty kill at 5-on-5. He wants to sort of increase that sort of play into some of these, younger guys like a Wyatt Johnston and Bork. They just need to be a little bit tougher to play against, because they got bullied around by McDavid and the Oilers the last couple of years.
We're going to finish the show taking a look at what is at stake for all of these teams. I'll give you a hint. These are all going to be teams that are going for the playoffs. We'll talk about that and breakout candidates as we finish today's season preview edition of Locked On NHL. Final segment of today's preview edition of Locked On NHL. Once again, we are your team each and every day. And we are your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week leading up to the start of the season. All right, fellas, what is at stake? I mean, it's pretty obvious that all of these teams are angling for playoff spots. Playoffs are the goal. Beyond the playoffs are the goal, but everybody at minimum is pushing for the postseason this year. So we're just going to go around and what is at stake if that doesn't happen? And I'm going to go last here. Let's start, Joey. Let's start with you. What is at stake for the Stars this year if they don't make the postseason?
Yeah, well, it feels like even bigger changes may have to come. I think there will actually be a firm changing of the guard because they retained Jamie Benn for another year. It feels like if they're not able to get it done, or at least make the postseason, then they're sort of in that Sharks conversation of like the early, like kind of late 2000s or 2010s, right? Where they were just like, they're really good. They won a lot of games, but they just were not able to seal the deal. And it's tough to do. We all know it's the hardest trophy to win in sports, but it feels like with Ben getting another year older, feels like his time may be out. And then the Stars are really, I think they are ushering in a brand new era of Stars hockey. And it's going to have to, then you're really going to have to rely on your Wyatt Johnsons of the world. It's going to be these young guys that are really going to have to step up with some of the older guys, maybe sort of aging out. I feel like if you're Jim Nill, you've pressed sort of all the buttons you feel like you can press. You put together a really, really good roster for 6-7 years now. You've tried a couple different coaches. At some point, I think you're going to have to maybe look and be like, okay, like we're going to have to change something on this roster because we've kept it pretty similar for, years on years. And he believes it's a good roster. He believes it can probably win a Stanley Cup. Why shouldn't he? He's been given the GM of the Year award 3 straight years, but we all know he wants to win the Stanley Cup.
Chris, what's at stake for the Avs this year if they would fail to make the playoffs?
Oh God, if they fail to make the playoffs, yeah, heads are rolling. There were people asking, does there need to be a coaching change after last year, after the first round exit to Dallas with Jared Bednar? He's been there almost a decade at that time. And is it just like they just need like a new voice, a fresh voice? I don't think he hasn't lost the locker room or anything like that. They respect him. The players respect him. They play for him. The fan base loves him. The front office loves him. It was just one of those things. Is tenure a bad thing when it comes to head coaches? Sometimes the answer to that is yes. They're not there. They came out after they lost that series, and Joe Sakic and Chris McFarland had their press conference and pretty much shut that down right away. It was like, no, he's our coach. They wouldn't commit to how long or anything like that, but because I think you do have to kind of take this year by year. If they miss the playoffs, I can't imagine, I think there would have to be a change there. I would say even another first round exit, and we're having this conversation. They need to go deep. Minimally, they need to go Western Conference Finals. They have to.
As far as the Wild go, this is going to be a fascinating season on many different fronts because now you've finally gotten out from the shadow of the Parise Suter dead cap nightmare hits. They're still getting paid via their buyouts, but that's manageable. It's like $1.8 million between the two of them. That's manageable. So now you don't have any excuses. You can't turn and say, well, we have been dealing with these, massive cap penalties. How do you expect us to field a truly competitive team by having $15 million that we can't spend? Well, now you have $15 million that you can spend. And a lot of that has gone to extensions. A lot of it's gone to, retaining key players. A lot of it will go to KIRILL Kaprizov if he sticks around. But you have to now, like, let's say KIRILL signs year one, you got to be in your window. Like, you don't really have the opportunity to be able to say, we got to build up to this. What have you been doing the last 5 years? Like, you just have to start taking legitimate shots. And that means, I think, if they fail to do so, that Bill Guerin's seat is going to get hotter and hotter. I don't think, I've maintained all along that if for some reason KIRILL doesn't stay, I don't think Bill Guerin keeps his job, because I don't see how you survive that, considering how important KIRILL is to this franchise. That being said, if they do keep KIRILL and we keep stacking up first-round exits, at some point the bill comes due. At some point, Bill Guerin is going to run out of chances. And I will say this as well. He's not going to get an opportunity to install another head coach. If this team struggles this year and if it becomes clear that a change needs to be made, Bill Guerin is not getting another opportunity to install a coach. That may be when his seat starts to get hot. So if this team misses the playoffs, all the burners are going to be flipped on. Harrison, what is at stake for the Jets this year should they not make the playoffs?
Oh, joy.
Say no more.
So there is a scenario in my head where the Jets don't make the playoffs. And I don't think it's like 5% like you would expect. If Helly has one of his down years, which we haven't, I mean, we're overdue. He's overdue for a stinker, which I don't think is going to happen. If the guy has a bad season, I'm buying a lotto ticket because there's no way, right? But let's just say it happens. If he does, and this team can't compensate, which for as stingy as they are, I mean, everything is built out from the net in terms of team success. There's a very real chance the Jets might be sellers come the trade deadline. And I am not mad at that. I think you'll see some fan pushback. I think people will be pissed about it. I think you'll see some ticket sales decline. But if the Jets start slipping into territory where they're looking at a top half of the first round pick, I would qualify that as an okay result. This year doesn't feel like the Jets are a very serious playoff team. They'll absolutely make it, but they are not a contender, not as is. It would take something, which is certainly possible to happen, like a big trade, some game-changing deal for me to have a different assessment. But I've seen this show a ton of times. It's not really a unique script. So for me, look, there will be some heat, but if the Jets don't really do that well, I think they've already got the Taves factor to try and keep the shine going for as long as possible. Oh my gosh, it's Jonathan Taves is going to carry them and sell jerseys for months, maybe even years. That's going to be a lot of positive sentiment. So if things don't go well, I don't know that there's going to be that much pressure. Even if there was, no one in Winnipeg gets fired. Like, come on. Let's be real. No one gets fired. For me, there should be heat because last trade deadline was probably one of the biggest disappointments possible. That was your year. And you got Luke Shen and Tanev, which, by the way, cost them like multiple second-round picks and took them out of offer sheet territory. So Winnipeg is as Winnipeg does. They'll be there in the mix. They'll be, a team that everyone hates playing against. Everyone will be happy about the whiteout. Then when the first round exit comes, it's back to the drawing board. What possibly went wrong? I don't know.
All right, I think that is going to wrap it up for this special season preview edition of Locked On NHL. Listeners, as always, make sure to follow Locked On Wild, Locked On Avs, Locked On Jets, and Locked On Stars for full coverage of all of these contending teams as we get closer to the start of the season. You can find new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.